Got your back against the wall, no, you know you never had a chance. Should've known better, now you better make other plans. There's no going back, gotta let you know in advance. This is Game Squad.
What's up, YouTube? Alex here, aka Intch95. Bringing you guys another video. There's gonna be probably a crazy deck profile. I promised you guys I would do more deck profiles and just more stuff along the lines of just videos in general. So I figured I'd bring you guys a deck profile of a deck that just recently came out about a week ago in the new set, Secret Forces, and a lot of people have not necessarily been hyping it up. A lot of people have been trying it, and they've been finding a lot of success. This is my take on the deck. I'm still testing it. I have everything for the main deck that I'd like to be using. There's a couple cards in the extra deck that I just couldn't find. I didn't want to go scavenging through like all my extra deck stuff just for the sake of this video. I've mostly been playing it on DN. But I'll probably take it to a local or two just to test it out in the next couple days. Or maybe even today, I don't know, depending on how my day goes. But I figured I'd show you guys the deck profile of the deck, and I'll explain my take on it and why I run certain card choices, and to kind of help familiarize you guys with the deck and some of the plays that it can do. Traditionally, it's pretty much played as a stun deck, so right off the bat, it's almost like an anti-meta deck. For those of you guys that don't know, I won't be showing a side deck, but I'll give you guys some ideas on what cards that I think you guys could be siding with this deck and maybe against it. So basically, they have 3 monsters. I'm gonna go ahead and explain all of them. They're all called Yosenju, and then they have a number after each of them. They have Yosenju, 1, 2, and then they have 3. These are the main core guys, right? And basically, what they all do is they all allow you to summon when they're normal summon. Let's say you summon a normal summon a Yosenju, 3. As soon as it's summoned, it has a trigger effect that it allows you, if you want to summon another Yosenju, monster that isn't Yosenju, 3. So you can go like Yosenju, 3 into Yosenju, 2. But because it's treated as a normal summon, it's another normal summon, allows you to trigger the next guy's effect. So like let's say you go Yosenju, 3 into Yosenju, 2. His effect will activate, allowing you to summon another one. So you guys can either summon another one of these 2 guys or the next guy, which is Sujic, which I'll show you guys in a minute. He actually is the only one that doesn't have the extra normal summon ability. But the abilities of each of these guys are really, really cool. Their base stats aren't that great. The strongest one is definitely Yosenju, 2, unless you have like a pumped up Sujic. What they all do is Yosenju, 1, he's pretty much a compulsory for any face-up card on the field as long as you have another Yosenju monster. Is it Yosenju monster or Yosenju card? I forget. If you control another Yosenju monster, you can target a face-up card your opponent controls, and then you compulsory it. Yosenju, 2, he probably has the weakest ability. He can attack directly, but the damage they take is halved, so they'll pretty much take 900. And then Yosenju, 3, his ability is actually... I thought it was really great at first, but then because it's just the way the meta goes right now and a lot of your matchups, I usually just use him for a lot of exceeding, but when you have another Yosenju monster on the field along with him, and that Yosenju monster deals battle damage, or I'm pretty sure it's just battle damage, or I don't think it's any other type of damage. Yeah, when it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can add a Yosenju card, which is really, really cool. You can add any Yosenju card, so if you are running like the trap, or the rock guy, you can add him. You can add a lot of different stuff, and you can search them. You just can't add himself. And he doesn't search, like he can't, like, if you have another one, he can't be the one that deals damage for you to search. It has to be like another guy that deals damage, if I'm not mistaken. So it's pretty much when another monster you control, when another Yosenju monster you control and fix battle damage, you can search any Yosenju card, which is really, really cool. So that means if you have like multiple combinations of these guys, you can go like 3-2-1 or 3-1-2, 3, like you can do like all sorts of combinations to summon all these guys out. The only thing you can't do is you can't go like 3-3-2 or 3-3-1, for instance, or 1-1-2. Like it has to be a different number of each one that you normal summon. So they offer you a lot of really cool plays. And during the end phase, they're all like spirit monsters. They go back to your hand, which means they avoid stuff like Dark Hole, Regeki. They don't get Snatch Steeled. Like that stuff just never really happens to these guys, which is a really, really cool attribute of the deck. And then the second to last Yosenju monster I run is 3 Sujic. Now he's not the greatest of them. I usually just use him for like exceeding, or for like random damage. What he does is in the hand he acts like a hand trap where you can discard him to boost a Yosenju monster by 1,000. So he's like a Kalut for 1,000, right? His other ability though is when he's on the field, you can boost a Yosenju monster, any Yosenju monster that you have, by 1,000. So if he's on the field, you can make him 2,000, or if you have like a 2, you can make it a 2,800. And the only other issue with he also bounces back to your hand, but he doesn't have the normal summon ability, unfortunately. That would have made this deck really, really like amazing, honestly. Like, it probably would have made it a top tier deck right now, which I think it has potential to be a top tier deck.
And the last card I run is just one Yosenju Shinjuku L. I don't really think the Exceed version, or not the Exceed, the Pendulum version of this deck is that great, at least not yet. I definitely would be siding a second one of these. I was trying 2 for a while, but it ended up clogging, and you could always just search this with Yosenju, 3. This card is particularly good. For those of you guys who know what it was, when it's in the Pendulum, if your Yosenju monsters would be destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can destroy it instead. So it's almost like a mini my body's a shield. But when you normal summon it, it goes to immediately goes to defense, so he's kind of like a summoner monk in that regard. And then your opponent can't target any of your Yosenju monsters except him with card effects. So that's really, really cool. And the one deck that this card really, really shines against, which is why I would be siding a second one, and I would definitely be running one at the very least, is Necros, or Necros, because what you can do is you can go, like, they'll leave their board open a lot, especially because this deck likes to go second a lot. I would definitely be going second, even though this is a stun deck, especially against like Necros, because what they'll usually, they don't want to lose to Mirror Match turn 1, so they'll usually leave like an empty board if they don't know you're playing this deck, right? So you'll be able to spam all your guys, and if you have this in hand, you normal summon him as the last one, he goes to defense, right? And you attack, they can't Valkyris you, because Valkyris is like Scarecrow, he targets. You can't Valkyris under Yosenju Shinjuku L. So that's really, really, really good. And he gets around that. And like, if you're reading like a Mirror Force or something, you can summon all, or not a Mirror Force or a Torrential, you can activate this guy, then summon all your guys, and then like attack or whatever to avoid like cards like that. So it's really, really cool. I think this offers a lot of plays. And he's just another Exceed. And worst case scenario, he's just a chump blocker. So I would definitely be running a second one of him in the side deck, if anything, just so you guys know. And then for the spells, I don't really like the non-upstart version of this deck. I personally would definitely be running upstart. My version's a little bit different. A lot of people, like stun variants of this, don't really run this. But if I'm running like floodgate-based cards and I really want this deck to do exactly what it's supposed to do, there's no reason why I shouldn't be running this. Like, I don't care. I can deal that weenie damage anytime. I need to see my floodgates. I need to see all my traps, because I run a ton of traps. I run like, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 traps and Book of Moon, so I guess that may as well be a trap. So I basically run 15 traps in this deck. And this lets me see all of it, because I don't really run a huge monster count. It's very, very important to run this. So if you're not running this, I think you're doing it wrong. Next card is 3 10 keys. These guys are all Beast Warriors. Hey, you can 10 key them out, which is really, really cool, and a huge benefactor for this deck. It lets you see all your monsters, so you pretty much run 3 more monsters. I only run 2 dualities. I was running 3. I didn't like them clumping as 2 of, so, or like opening 2 of them, whether I was going first or second. So I only run 2 of these. Duality is really, really good. I mean, it lets you see all your stuff really fast. The most important thing I would say about this deck, besides that, is running cards that answer established boards. This deck does not care about really interacting with your opponent whatsoever. This is like a new age Ophion deck. What you honestly just want to do is put as many monsters on the field as possible. Use like a field clearing card like Dark Hole, Raigeki, or even Mirror Force, which you guys will see later. Clear their board and just put as many monsters on board. Keep attacking them over the course of turns. Lock them down with floodgates. Maybe make like a Carnagorgon or something to help protect your floodgates, and then just beat them down. That's honestly what this deck wants to do. It's pretty much an old school beatdown deck with just like new age tricks. So you definitely need all these. And you'll never really be hurting your own monsters because they bounce during end phase. So I mean, these are just so important against established boards. Snatch Steal, obviously, and Book of Moon, those are pretty obvious. I don't really have to explain those. I run 3 Emptiness. This is like, you have to run this. Even though there's like Cliffforts or like the one of the 2 best decks, you have to run this. Necros are just so dangerous. BAs are still a real thing. Satellars are still real. I mean, you can play those decks. And obviously against Cliffforts, I'd arguably say is probably your worst matchup, because I don't main deck MSTs. I wouldn't be main decking them in this deck. You already have enough main deck answers for them, and you just side deck your MSTs and like Twisters and stuff. Or hands, actually. I would definitely be side decking Fire and Ice Hand at least as 2 ofs, so it can answer that deck as well as like other decks. But this is like one of the core, I guess the core like strategy of the deck, to pretty much lock down your opponent with these Floodgates, Emptiness, and Anti-Spell Fragrance. What Anti-Spell Fragrance, for you guys that don't know what it does, is it slows down your opponent, mostly Necros and Cliffforts. Which is why I said this deck doesn't really care if it goes first. It hurts going second against Cliffforts sometimes, but the reason why you want to go second is you want to see these cards a lot more, which is why we run the upstarts. And it forces your opponent, or both players actually, to set spell cards before they play them. So Clifforts, for instance, if they just like pass or they don't have a scout opening hand or whatever, or they just have like a monster plus like sacrifice, and you flip these on them, or even if you're going first, they can't play their scales, number one, and number two, they have to set all their spells before they use them. So like sacrifices, MSTs, all those other things. Like unless they draw the MST, they could just chain it to this. But even Necros, that usually they'll only have 3 main deck answers to this besides Exceeding. So if you have both of these on the field, they usually can't out it unless they have like Eclipse, Dark Hole, or Raigeki, and they usually have to set those first, which gives you a chance to blow them up. It gives you a chance to, you know, exceed and protect your stuff. It gives you a chance to just beat them down. So these cards are so important. And unfortunately, I was actually trying to make this deck lowest rarity, believe it or not, to show you guys how cheap this deck is, aside from the extra deck. And even the extra really isn't that expensive right now. So these would definitely be supers, and these would definitely be commons. But this deck is very, very cheap, so I highly recommend it if you don't want to invest in like a tier 1 deck right now. This deck combats those decks very, very well. For the extra traps, you run 3 Fiendish Chains and 3 Mirror Force. Now this is very important. You really want to just take as little damage as possible, but Mirror Force is probably the most important trap, because you clear their field. It's another Raigeki Dark Hole type card where you just clear their board, you put more monsters, attack, and you do the same thing again next turn. That's honestly the goal of this deck, just beat them down like I said. But the Fiendish Chain is probably just as important, just because you don't want to get Exiton. Exiton is probably the biggest threat for this deck. That and Diamond Dire. Diamond Dire can also be kind of critical sometimes. And the last 2 cards I run are Torrential and Bottomless. These cards also help clear everything. I mean, they just, you know, it helps deal with everything. I don't really like Compulse right now in the main deck. I think it's better in the side. It's really only good against BA. It's not that great against Clifforts, and it's pretty shitty against Necros because they could just reuse their effects. So these are really important. They actually help get rid of the threat, which is what you want to do. I'll definitely be siding like other traps. It's a 40 card deck, in case you didn't already know that, which is, you know, obviously that's how we want it to be. When I wasn't running the upstarts, I was actually running 44, 45 cards in this deck, because a new strategy people were doing was, especially at YCS Tacoma with the release of Necloths, was asking opponents before the duel how many cards they ran in their deck to find out if they were running more than 40 cards. They would typically be running Necloths. So it'd give them an advantage. So if they make them go first, you could, like, it wouldn't be a problem with this deck, because then you could see your floodgates. But running more cards, the issue with that is you draw 5 cards opening hand, and you have a less likely chance of seeing all your floodgates, which is why I made this deck 40, just to optimize seeing those cards. For the extra deck, I'm missing a couple cards, but I'll show you guys at the end. I have pretty much everything. Like, the extra deck's fairly like straightforward. You run 1 Dweller, 1 Castell, 1 Dark Rebellion, 1 Diamond Dire. There's a couple cards that are very like obvious staples in here, but there's a couple cards that also really aren't, and you guys can change those up. 1 Exiton, 1 Cowboy, 1 Silent Honor, 1 Ragnar-Zero, 1 Giant Hand. You guys can replace this with another Lightning Chidori if you want. If you have this card, I would definitely recommend running it. This is just how I would run the deck. 1 Rhapsody, 1 Heartland Draco. I actually, this is a proxy. I'm not running Lavalval Chain, that's why it's upside down. I actually sold my second Carnagorgon at Tacoma, but I would definitely be running 2 Carnagorgons. Making a second Carnagorgon came up way too often for me, because a lot of the times, turn 1, if you have your floodgates, against 2 of the top, like 2 of the best decks are obviously Necros and Clifforts, so if they make you go first, or you just are going, like, if they make you go first, you obviously always want to go second. If they're making you go first, and you have like any combination of commas, right, and any combination of floodgates with like a protection card, you literally just summon, make Carnagorgon, set your floodgate, and set your protection card, and they usually just can't out it, because you can redirect if they have the MST for with Carnagorgon, and if they clear the Carnagorgon somehow with, like, I don't know, Dark Hole, Raigeki, Book of Moon and Eclipse really isn't that much of an answer, because, especially for Necloths, because they can't really run this over if you continue to have the floodgate, because he has 1950 defense, which is very, very important. So I would definitely be running a second Carnagorgon. It's a really cheap card. It's probably a couple bucks. It's really, like, don't run Lavalval Chain. This is just a proxy for it. And then I run 1 Tiger King. You can actually get Tenki in this deck, because we run Tenki, and these guys are all Beast Warriors. You can pretty much skill drain your opponent's whole field with this guy and get a Tenki, which is really, really cool. It's just another thing you can do with this deck. I was running the Jinsei Kagasuchi guy, the guy that can't be destroyed. He has like a Silent Honor, but he wasn't that great. This guy was just infinitely better and, you know, much more versatile. And the last card I run, I only run 1 of it. I've never needed 2. If you're ever making 2, it's not just great in general. I do not run Daigusto Emerald. This is actually supposed to be a Lightning Chidori. Unfortunately, I don't have one right now. I just can't find one. and people are overvaluing them, and I don't really feel like shelling out like the cash just for another Lightning Chidori, and I could just get one at any time, but I'm not playing this deck competitively really. But if you guys are playing it like on DN, or if you have it, you only need one Lightning Chidori. Stop believing people that are going to tell you you're going to need 2 Lightning Chidoris. If you ever need 2 Lightning Chidoris, you're probably doing something wrong. Every time I've, like, Lightning Chidori, for those of you guys that don't know what it is, if I had my other phone, I'll definitely show you, but you guys probably know what it is. It takes 2 wind monsters. When it's summoned, you bounce it, you spin a face down card to the bottom of the deck, and then if they have a face up card, you can spin it to the top of the deck by detaching a material, and he's a 1900 body, so his stats aren't that great, but he can open up a lot of plays, so I figured, you know, I should proxy Emerald because they're both wins. So that's the deck. Now I'm going to go ahead and explain a couple other things real quick just before I finish up this profile. I'm not going to be showing you guys a side deck. If I was to show you guys a side deck, I would definitely be side decking cards like MSTs, Compulsory, another Shinjuku or Shinchu L, mostly just for the Neckloth matchup so you can play around Valkyris a lot easier. I would definitely be side decking the, what is it, the, god damn it, I'm forgetting their names. The hands, I would definitely be side decking the hands, like 2 and 2 of each hands. I had a side deck that I was working on for a while, like there's a couple of things. I'd probably be side decking, I don't know if I'd be side decking Twisters, I actually don't remember if I sided those on DN, but there's a lot of other like options you could put in the side deck. I think it's a very versatile deck. It's an anti-meta deck, but some choices that you guys probably noticed that I don't run, number 1, are the Yosen Training Grounds and the Counter Trap, which people are going to be like, what the hell, why aren't you running the barrier for the deck? Well, let me explain something. Firstly, I'm just going to explain the spell card. People kept saying that this was like Gateway. The problem with this, I would run this card if it wasn't called Yosen. If it was Yosenju, then I would run it because then I would definitely be running this. This card only works when you have a Yosenju monster on the field, which if you don't have one, that you're usually not going to have a Yosenju monster on the field except during your turn because they get bounced during your turn, which means you can't use this card during your opponent's turn to stop their plays. This is only pretty much used offensively, like when you're like summoning your monsters and attacking, and then like they mirror force or some stupid shit, and then you do this. That's on, like, this card is only live during your turn. I don't want a card that sucks going second, number 1. That's a trap that takes me another 2 turns to use, basically, and just contributes to making my dead hands or my bad hands even worse. Yes, it's searchable. Yes, the counter trap. Yes, it's fantastic, but it's not a versatile card. That's the problem with it, and that's why I don't run it. I'd rather run stuff like Upstarts, run stuff just like real defense to basically accomplish what this deck wants to do. It's a stun deck. It wants to stun your opponent. This doesn't stun your opponent. This just like is a gimmicky, excuse me, I have the hiccups. This is just a gimmicky card that only is versatile during your turn. So like when you're going off, that's when you use it. Aside from that, it doesn't do anything real. It does nothing real during your opponent's turn. I don't want that. I want all my cards to be real because, like I said, this obviously isn't the best deck. Which, if you're running anything outside of the best deck, you want to run cards that are good against all your matchups across the board, including those best decks, because that's probably what you're going to be playing mostly against. So that's why I don't think this card is that great. If someone could, you know, maybe find a good version of this variant that runs this card, be my guest, but I personally don't agree with it, and I've tested this deck enough to know that this card is dead more often than it isn't. And most of the time, you don't care what they do during their turn, like, not during their turn, but your turn, because, like, if you have like the Yosenju Juku L guy and like you're just playing like the slow grinding game, you're making them use resources on your floodgates, you're making them use all the resources to clear your stuff during their turn. So during your turn, you don't really have to worry about anything. And then the spell card, it's just not that great because it's the same reasoning, honestly. Like, yes, it's great when you activate it, you can summon your guys, get a free search and a boost, but if this had like another, like if this was called Yosenju, then I would run this because this requires a Yosenju card on the field. So, I mean, in the future, if they release like a Yosenju Exceed, which that'd be awesome, then I would definitely consider running this, maybe as like a 2 of, or just a Yosenju card that doesn't get bounced back. I would definitely be running this card, but as of now, the fact that they're all like Spirit Monsters, which is a really cool attribute of the deck, is kind of counterproductive to be, like, it's just counterintuitive to be running this with that, you know, it doesn't make sense in my opinion. So that's why I don't run either of these cards. I don't really agree with them. They contribute to bad hands, and overall, they kind of just like they kind of just stymie what you want to do with this deck. Like, it's just not great overall. So yeah, just remember, I'm not running Emerald. This is supposed to be a Lightning Chidori. This is supposed to be a second Carnagorgon, and the rest of the extra deck is pretty standard. You guys don't have to run Giant Hand. If you don't want to run Giant Hand or you can't get one, just run another Lightning Chidori. That's definitely gonna be cheaper than getting anything else, or just run like another rank 4 that you like. Or is versatile or works. I'm gonna go ahead and flash the deck again. I tried to like, I have a couple duels with this deck on DN that I recorded. I'm not sure if I'll do commentaries. I have a couple duels where people just like scooped instantaneously that I might do like a funny video of, where like I flip like a card, or like I had some Neckcloth player that was like tracking me and like basically trying to see what I was playing. And then he tried to play me with like, or he thought I was playing Necros at first because I was playing Necros for like a couple games. And then he played me with Necros, decided to go first, which that deck always wants to go second because he thought he was clever. He does the Djinn lock, and I just activate Dark Hole, and he just scoops, and then I show him like Dark Hole and like Anti-Sprout Fragrance, and he just like goes super Salt Fest, and he just loses. But I think this deck has a cool ceiling for potential. I don't think it's like a deck with like a really minimum, like a really low ceiling for potential in the future, especially if this deck gets more cards. I haven't really tested the Exceed version, but like the Diebacks and like all the Yosenju guys, I don't think it's that great. I think if they get more support in the future, it'll be really, really good, and it'll have a lot of potential. But as of now, that is the deck. Let me know what you guys think of it. I'm sorry I didn't show a side deck right now, and I'm sorry I was missing those couple cards, but realistically, if you guys can get everything else, you probably should be able to get those cards. The side deck, like I said, just generic, like spot on removal. Side, definitely be siding like max season stuff, because BA is still a real deck. It's obviously not as good and it's not as popular because a lot of people are dropping it for like Necros or Cleese or whatever. But I'll definitely be running stuff for BAs. BA is definitely like a kind of a bitch of a matchup if you don't have like good answers for it, or if you can't make an established board really, really fast. And then just like soft lock them out of the game with like emptiness. So I would definitely be running stuff for BAs. Definitely like extra removal for Clifford stuff, and be sure to play around cards like Storm and Night Beams if people were still using those. And Neckcloth is probably your easiest matchup, but you could probably side a couple cards. I never really sided too much for that deck. But that's pretty much the deck. Let me know what you guys think of it. Drop a comment, favorite, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Subscribe if you already haven't. Check out my other videos. I do a ton of competitive content for those of you guys that don't know me. And yeah, check out my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook fan page, all that stuff down in the description. And I'll catch you guys next time. Peace! Oh yeah, sorry about that. Quick random note, forgot to mention to you guys, I'll have the deck list for this deck down in the description of this video, a screenshot of the deck that I've been using. And there's one more thing I actually forgot to mention. I was not running Bottomless in my updated version. This card actually was just not that great. I couldn't find a cheaper one. Like, I only have a super, so I forgot to actually just look for an ultra rare or common. But you're supposed to be running Macrocosmos in the deck. It was the 7th Floodgate. The reason you run this real quick, just to explain it, is because when people have an out to emptiness, like when you have an emptiness, like pretend this is an emptiness. If you have an emptiness on the board active, you actually don't just mindlessly always flip all your floodgates. What you'll do is, a lot of the time, like let's say you'll have like 3 or 4 back rows, right? Let's say this was an emptiness. If you activate it on your opponent, I don't know, like their Kaleido Mirror or something like that nature, what you'll do is you'll wait until they try to like, let's say they don't want to MST it immediately to make sure it resolves, don't want to MST something else. What you can do is if they try to MST like another card that isn't one of these two, you can chain this. So the card will get banished, which means since it's not going to the graveyard, your emptiness will stay. And if you have emptiness, Macrocosmos, and even maybe a Spell Fragrance, there's pretty much no out to that unless they can just immediately MST your emptiness by like setting something, like setting an MST in advance and then activating it on this. So just keep that in mind, guys. Macrocosmos is really, really important. It hurts BA as well. It can hurt Cliffords because none of their stuff will go to the Pendulums if you clear it with like Mirror Force, Dark Hole, right, Geki? So definitely run Macrocosmos. Just a very, very important card. I cannot believe I forgot to mention that. So I apologize for that. Deck list down in the description. Check out my stuff like I said, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
Please stay connected with me by adding me on all my social networks on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just copy the link into your search bar and add. Thank you.